Good morning. I'm Saif Rahman. I'm the Director of Public and Government Affairs at Al-Hijrah Islamic Center in Falls Church. Thank you for coming. We'll start with a short statement as of Al-Hijrah, and then we will have Safa Hawash speak, which will be followed by Dr. Usama Abu Shayd from the American Muslims for Palestine, and then Nihad Awad, the Executive Director of the Council on American Islamic Relations. The Al-Hijrah community stands appalled by the scenes coming out of Al-Aqsa Mosque. While on vacation, Sisters Noor and Safa Hawash, staff members of our communications department and American citizens, were senselessly assaulted by Israeli security forces as they were trying to help an elderly woman on the premises of Al-Aqsa Mosque. Their mother, Jermeen Abdul Karim, also a U.S. citizen and Dar al-Hijrah member, was assaulted as well. In light of what's been happening in the world, we feel that any form of supremacy needs to be addressed and injustices to anyone needs to be dealt with. The Dar al-Hijrah community holds our government responsible for making sure that American citizens are protected at home and abroad, and that our tax dollars are spent to make sure that justice is served throughout the world.
Assalamu alaikum. Today I speak on behalf of my mother and sister regarding the horrific event that took place at Al-Aqsa in Jerusalem on Tuesday. For the first time, my family and I visited Jerusalem as American tourists. Among many people of all origins, we were praying, worshiping, and admiring its beauty. This trip meant a lot to us, specifically because as Muslims, Al-Aqsa is one of the holiest sites for us in Islam. We went to take pictures at the Dome of the Rock when we suddenly heard the sound of gunfire and Israeli soldiers chasing people in all different directions. Within seconds, the fire department arrived and great numbers of backup soldiers swarmed the area. The worshippers began to seek refuge and run for their safety while simultaneously recording and documenting the events as they unveiled. The Israeli forces raided the Dome of the Rock Mosque and proceeded to physically remove worshippers from inside the mosque, forcing them to evacuate the premise. The soldiers lined up at every door and gate and forcefully shut down Al-Aqsa. An older woman on a wheelchair was being hurried out of the mosque when my sister realized that she was about to slip and fall. Another lady was trying to help her, but my sister Noor also realized that this lady was being attacked. Noor went in and attempted to help the old lady when a female soldier from the defense forces grabbed her arms and placed one wrist in handcuffs and pushed her to the ground. Consequently, my mother was holding onto my sister and fell down with her. The soldier sat on my sister and continued to be aggressive with her so that she can successfully place both hands in handcuffs. My sister was holding her U.S. passport in hand when the female soldier threw it to the side and continued to handcuff her and say, "I don't care about your ID." Several soldiers gathered around my sister and barricaded her with their feet and bodies, forcefully pushing away the men and women who were trying to help her. Another soldier physically assaulted my mom and removed her from under Noor, pushed her to the wall, and handcuffed her so that she would not be able to help her daughter. I was also near my sister and mom, but was aggressively pushed away by the soldiers when they took my sister down. I looked on horrified as I attempted to run back and help, but I was pushed away and kicked repeatedly to the ground as seen in the videos. There were many men and women who tried carrying me away to prevent further harm and escalation, but no one's attempts were helping. It was only moments later that a soldier who appeared to be a supervisor noticed my sister's passport, undid her handcuffs, and violently pushed her away. At this point, my sister was between consciousness as we all carried her to a chair where many Palestinian women helped her regain full consciousness by washing her face. The Israeli defense soldier slammed another chair on the chair that my sister was resting on and yelled to leave. He began to physically push us once more as we all tried exiting the premises. We found our way to the gate outside of the mosque, but we remained trapped inside between the old city and the gates that the IDF had closed off. From there, we waited another hour, speaking to several news outlets about what had happened. During this hour, EMTs rolled out an elderly Palestinian men who had been injured in the attack. Now, this is only a fragment of what Palestinian people have to endure on a daily basis, fighting for the basic right of existence. This horrendous event only scratched the surface of the reality. Unforgivably, we are not the first nor last people to have experienced the brutality of the Israeli forces. We will continue to speak out against injustice, and that begins here. We are also disheartened to return to the tragic terror attack in Christchurch, New Zealand. To say our hearts are heavy from the events of this past week is an understatement. Supremacy is the common theme in both events, and we will continue to fill our mosques and pray in them worldwide. we must work to shed light upon the basic necessity that has been deprived of all Muslims, and that is safety. It is not acceptable, nor is it normal to live a life in fear. To seek to practice freely and to feel secure in our mosques is never a right that should be threatened. As Americans, we are appalled that our country continues to support and turn a blind eye to a government that treats both Americans and Palestinians as second-class citizens, using, as we endured, physical aggression to enforce brutality. Our own tax dollars are being used to oppress us and others. We were beaten, kicked, shackled, and spat on, and I call on our representatives in Congress to condone this assault. We call for attention to be brought and action to be taken against the brutality and terror attacks that will continue to face Muslims today. We cannot allow this to become just another occurrence. Thank you.
Next, we'll have Osama Abu Rashed, the Executive Director of the American Muslims for Palestine.
Assalamu alaikum and good morning. This incident before us is just another reminder of Israel's disrespect to the United States and American citizens. This is a country that we give annually $3.8 billion. And it continues its crimes and its mistreatment, not only of Palestinian citizens, but of American citizens. I can remind you of many examples, like the example of Tariq Abu Khdeir, an American citizen, in 2014, who was beaten by an Israeli soldier. It was filmed, it went viral, and the Israelis were forced to investigate the incident, and the soldier who beat him ended up receiving a sentence of 45 days of community service. Another incident is Mahmoud Sha'lan. He was 16 at the time. This was back in 2016. He was shot dead by Israeli soldiers in the West Bank, the occupied West Bank. The US never demanded an investigation, and his blood was never accounted for. No one was punished for murdering that American citizen. Today, this is another example where we have American citizens declare that they're American citizens, thinking that they would be protected by just announcing it that they're American citizens, and the Israelis care less. And yet our government does nothing about it. In fact, our government is still in negotiations with the Israeli government to give Israeli citizens visa waivers to enter the United States, while American citizens are being mistreated at Israeli borders. And we're not only talking here about American citizens of Palestinian, Arab, and Muslim descent, rather we're talking about American citizens who are Jewish as well, who are being mistreated by Israel just for expressing their First Amendment right to speak against the Israeli atrocities and the Israeli policies against the Palestinian people. It is unfortunate that the Trump administration has emboldened the Israeli brutal policies against Palestinians and against American citizens. It emboldened these policies by recognizing Jerusalem, which is occupied, East Jerusalem, which is occupied under the international law as the capital of the State of Israel. It relocated the embassy, and the embassy is built on a land that is within the 1967 borders of East Jerusalem. Not only that, our administration just recently, in its human rights report, exonerated Israel of all of the crimes that it commits against the Palestinians. In fact, it was more of a defense of the Israeli government policies by claiming that Israel is a democracy that just passed a resolution or just passed a law last year identifying Israel as a state of the Jewish people. State of the Jewish people that basically removed the rights of 20% of its population who are Christian and Muslims. Our government is still defending this state. So we call on our administration here, to invoke the Lehi Law. The Lehi Law is a law that was passed in 1961 that requires the State Department to account for each dollar in foreign aid that is given to a specific country, how these money are being used, So we're giving $3.8 billion of our tax money, money that is being used to subjugate another people, to defy international law, and to defy our own American laws that recognizes Jerusalem, East Jerusalem, the West Bank, and the Gaza Strip under occupation. So we demand that the Leahy Law being invoked. 2, we demand an investigation to this incident. 3, we demand that our administration revisits the whole approach in relation to Israel, in relation to the occupation, in relation to the recent human rights report that dropped the word occupation of the West Bank, of the Golan Heights, and of the Gaza Strip. These policies are being directed against Americans because the Israelis know there is no consequences. There should be consequences. And we should demand, as Americans, that American citizens be respected, be treated well, and be protected by a citizen that they carry proudly. Thank you.
Next, we'll have Nihad Awad, the Executive Director of the Council on American Islamic Relations, CAIR.
Thank you, Saif. Good morning. First of all, I would like to say welcome back, Jermaine and Safa and Noor. Noor was unable to come to be at the press conference because she has an exam, and we wish her well. And also, I would like to say I'm very sorry to what happened to you while visiting Al-Aqsa Mosque, a place of worship, a place of peace and serenity. It's very fitting that Dar Al-Hijrah, which is your mosque and my mosque, to host this press conference, to express welcome back to you, and at the same time to draw the comparison. Here in the United States, our religious freedoms are protected, and that's why we feel safe and secure in this sanctuary to come and speak. Unfortunately, Palestinians, Christians, Muslim, and visitors from outside Palestine do not feel safe to visit or worship in places of worship like churches and mosques, especially Al-Aqsa Mosque, the sanctuary that's holy to Muslims around the world. Jermaine, Noor, and Safa were just visiting on a vacation, trying to enjoy the peace, the spirituality, and to learn also about that holy place and holy land. They were confronted with the brutality of the Israeli soldiers, the same brutality that Palestinians, Christians, Muslims, and Jews who oppose the state policies of Israel are confronted with every day. So unfortunately, they have seen what the Palestinians have been living every day under the brutal occupation. Now, I respect all of us when we call on our government, the United States government, to put pressure on the state of Israel. But unfortunately, this is not going to be easy. It is not going to happen very soon. Why? Because of the debate that has been prohibited, the influence of the pro-Israel forces on our government officials' decisions vis-a-vis the aid to the state of Israel. The brutality that happened to Jermaine, Safa, and Noor has been done in our name as Americans. The Israeli soldiers do not care about America and the U.S. passport or even the dignity of the United States. Why? Because they feel that there will be no consequences. They feel protected, they feel aided, they feel shielded by this government and many governments. However, our call is to the American public. You should raise your own awareness about the reality of the brutal occupation of the Israeli occupation of the Palestinian lands. That Israel has been enabled with $3.8 billion in military aid to oppress the Palestinians, to inflict harm on the indigenous population of Palestine, both Christians and Muslim, because they are different. And the nation-state laws that have been passed and have been adopted in the state of Israel makes it official that Israel is an apartheid state. Israel treats non-Jews as subhumans and different than Jews, and therefore they do not qualify for the protection, the respect, dignity that Jews enjoy in the state of Israel. We call on our elected officials to respect America by putting the pressure necessary on the state of Israel to show respect at least for the aid that we give to the state of Israel. I'm very sorry that we cannot do so much except we advocate on your behalf. And we will continue to do so until we see change. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think what we'll do now is open up to press questions for the family. Please identify yourself.
I'm with Associated Press. Two questions. One, talk about reaching out to Congress. I guess, have you reached out to your representatives and received any response? Another question, talking about the passports, I think you said your sister had her passport out. Did you have those out? Was there expectation on your part that that would provide a measure of safety protection to you?
First off, yeah, we did contact Gary Connolly. We have not received a response since. We've contacted the State Department, and we've received a response but have not received a follow-up yet. And as for the passports, we were told that we should carry them with us at all times. First off, because that's the form of identification that they accept there. Second off, because I do believe that by having my American passport, I expect to be protected. But that did not happen. I think that is the expected feeling, but here at Al-Hijrah, I don't feel as attacked as others do feel, but I have definitely, my feelings have changed in the past week, and I genuinely do feel a different fear that I've never felt before.
And I mean outside of this mosque, just in the community, or not necessarily?
Yes. There is definitely a change in how things are.
People looking at you, saying anything, can you describe to those of us who are clueless?
I think the looks is something that we can all say that have been there, and but they don't change anything. They don't change how things are and how things will be. These terror attacks will continue to happen, and this is our job. This is our job to stand against them. I'm honestly at a loss of words.
Keep in mind, we had a vigil of 650 people here on Saturday with all of our allies and neighbors from Jewish and Christian faiths to stand with the Muslim community post Christchurch. So it's quite ironic that we stand here right now, talking about a situation that is another form of supremacy, and it's along a spectrum of hatred that needs to be dealt with so that we can stamp out injustice. Any others?
I guess, Angela from the Fairfax County Times. I guess, what would you say that, I know you talked about the importance of having the public sort of speak to their representatives, but I guess if anyone was interested in helping you personally, is there anything that people in the community can do to help?
I think what can be done mostly is bring awareness, because as Nihad said, there is not something huge that can be done because this occupation will continue to exist. It has been, a whole generation has been raised out of this occupation. So by bringing awareness and having our community members talk about topics like this, and our Congress members and our elected representatives who are supposed to represent everything that faces their constituents, I think that this is what we need. We need awareness, and we need just the slightest bit of action to be taken.
I think contacting members of Congress and their representatives is something that's very important to actually bring light to what's happening. and make sure they're aware of it. Osama, did you want to add?
I just want to also put this in context. I just want to put this in context. We have to keep in mind that we just had an orchestrated controversy surrounding Representative Ilhan Omar when she dared to speak against the Zionist lobby in the US and the policies of the Israeli government. She was accused of anti-Semitism just for criticizing Israel. It is unfortunate that the definition that is adopted by the State Department of anti-Semitism conflates the criticism of Israel with anti-Semitism. So now this could be again used as another accusation against our community of being anti-Semitic just because we dare to speak against the Israeli policies. This has nothing to do with Jews. We can give you names, people to contact of the Jewish faith who have been and are still being mistreated, detained at the Israeli borders, interrogated, denied entry into Israel, called self-hating Jews just because they dare to speak against the Israeli policies. It has nothing to do with Judaism. It doesn't make us anti-Semitic. It doesn't make them self-hating Jews. So in light of this orchestrated controversy, we say, look, this is one of the examples that tells you that Israel is a state that has gone rogue, that is a state that has no respect to human rights, has no respect to international law, has no respect to our own laws in this country, and it's not being held accountable for them. So now when we call on our elected officials to go and take a look into the laws that they themselves passed, whether in relation to the Lehi law or any other law, when they set these standards for human rights, they should go and investigate the Israeli government's policies, especially when it comes to American citizens. So now they could claim, and I will just add one piece of information here. We have talked before with the officials of this, from the State Department about this mistreatment of American citizens from Palestinian descent when they go back and visit their land. What we were told is that Israel is a sovereign country and it's a democracy. And they believe that the Israelis are upholding their, their commitment to democracy and upholding their commitment to law. Now we're saying this is another example where Israel is not upholding anything in terms of law or human rights norms. So again, this is not anti-Semitic when we go and say, investigate Israel, make sure that the $3.8 billion that it's receiving every single year from us is not being used in defiance of our own norms and our own laws. In this country, we still have a debate over a border on the southern, over a wall on the southern borders, but we bankrolled a wall that annexed more land from the West Bank, occupied West Bank, according to the international law. So this doesn't make any sense that we have this imbalanced relationship between the US and Israel, and then anyone who dares to speak about this structural problem in our relationship with the State of Israel being accused of anti-Semitic. These are facts, and we, again, saying Israel is not above criticism, and criticizing Israel is not anti-Semitic.